There is something wonderfully exhilarating about the sea, and for me, there is no better place to appreciate this than along the Pembrokeshire coast in southwest Wales. My mother lived here for a while, and in September 2005 I had the opportunity to revisit this wonderful area when Mum decided to return here for a week's holiday. So I'd like to share with you the quiet and stress-free week I spent touring Britain's only coastal national park. Mum said to me a couple of months ago that she was going to book a caravan here in Pembrokeshire. So she said to me, "Do you want to come and join me for a week?" And I said, "Yeah, too flipping right if you're going to Pembrokeshire." It's a great place. And Pembrokeshire was always Mum's favourite part of the UK. She came and sort of worked here for 2 years and lived here. And she loved it. She loved it. And I loved it too when I came to visit her. So yes, when Mum said that she was going to rent a caravan for a week, I jumped at the chance and thought, yeah, too right. I mean, it's a wonderful piece of coastal scenery. I think it's probably, I'd say it's my favourite coastal part of the UK. So. I'll begin my tour of Pembrokeshire in the historic walled town of Tenby. Tenby combines all the usual amenities of a popular seaside resort with a picturesque aspect and outstanding historical appeal. The old part of the town, its narrow streets confined within medieval walls, occupies a prominent headland. The impressive town walls and the scanty remains of the castle at the tip of the headland, both built in the late 13th century to protect the harbour from Welsh raids, are evidence of Tenby's importance in the Middle Ages as a busy port and staging post between Bristol and Ireland. Let's just see what it says in my book about freshwater. Freshwater East Beach is celebrated for its translucent azure water and fresh broad sands. Backed by dunes and grassy headlands, this beach is a peaceful retreat sheltered by red sandstone cliffs. Popular with water sports enthusiasts, surfing, windsurfing, canoeing and sailing. Fishing is also a favoured pastime, with local fishermen launching their boats from the slipway. The pleasant village of Freshwater East is only minutes away for those who fancy a gentle stroll and a drink in the local pub. Sounds like a good idea to me. Although, I wouldn't exactly say that's a flippin' gentle stroll up that bloody hill, would you? What made you move to Pembrokeshire? What really made you decide that you wanted to go to Pembrokeshire?
I've been down here a couple of times with Joe to Freshwater, and I just loved Freshwater. And I thought it was beautiful. All around here, actually, I thought it was beautiful.
So what was it about Freshwater you liked? Was it just the fact that she had a holiday home?
Well, it wasn't
Freshwater.
I just loved it around here, the coast, and you know, and I couldn't get over it. Sort of like, you know, when we came down here and sort of leave the house and be on the beach in 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's nice.
That was fantastic.
It's a nice beach at Freshwater.
Yeah, and it was different every time you went on there. Every time.
Different in what way?
Well, you wake up in the morning and the tide had been in and it had been out, and that little stream that runs down across the beach, it was always in a different place from the day before.
Oh right, I'm trying to think of where the stream
well,
was.
you know, when you go onto the beach, you cross over a bridge and that's going over a stream, which is and it's always in a slightly different place from the day before.
What, the bridge or the stream?
The stream that leads go down to the water. And the pebbles, you know, at different times of the year, they wash up in different places on the beach. At one time of the year, they'll wash up on this side of the beach, and then other times it's on that side of the beach. And then sometimes you'll find lots of shells of that sort. And then a few months later, you don't find any of those, and you find something else.
So it was Freshwater that prompted you to want to live in Pembrokeshire.
Yeah, and I love it. I mean, I just love the area. But if I was going to live here, I'd really rather live by the coast, by the sea.
Well, yes, I mean that was the point of view. Wanted to live there anyway, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was, and Haverfordwest is not close enough, really.
No, but it's well, I mean, it's what, 7 miles from Haven, the nearest coastal resort. So
yeah. Should we?
Yeah. Let's have a drop more, or a glass for more. Medieval Haverfordwest is Pembrokeshire's administrative heart and is dominated by its castle. With the town's riverside shopping and leisure facilities, it is the gateway to the county's beautiful and spoilt west coast. From the Middle Ages, Haverfordwest was a flourishing port. Today it is a hive of activity, again thanks to a modern and attractive shopping development overlooked by a medieval castle founded prior to 1120. I grew up in Chepstow and I lived there for about 11-12 years. Now in 1981 I finally left Chepstow and moved into the Bristol area. Now my mum's job that she was doing up until 1981 moved premises into the Bristol area, so we moved with the job basically. And I spent the next 22 years of my life in Bristol. Now, one of the most frequented water sports centres in the district, Dale was once a prosperous port trading far afield, even at one time exporting ale to Liverpool. Historically, Dale can claim fame as the spot where in 1485 Henry Tudor landed on his return from exile in France, en route to his defeat of Richard III at Bosworth Field. Bristol was still not that far from places like the Wye Valley and Forest of Dean, so I probably visited those areas as often as I did when I was living in Chepstow, probably more so actually, because by the time I was living in Bristol I was a lot older, so I was able to get about a lot more. So it was great to visit the Forest of Dean whilst I still lived in Bristol. I never liked Bristol particularly, I have to say. I know I spent 22 years of my life there, but I just never took to Bristol. The only good thing about Bristol for me was my close friends that I've got there. But Bristol, I just had no affection for Bristol whatsoever. Beef sandwiches. I do like a nice bit of beef. This village really lives up to its name, for it is just a little haven, with a couple of shops and a couple of pubs. It is not commercialised, but is very popular with families in the summer. When the tide is out, there are very clean sands to play on, rocks to clamber over, and a stream to splash in as well as the sea. Just what young children want. Not just children either, I think. Three years ago, I got a job in Derbyshire, where I am now living, and I'm very happy there. It was quite a brave move on my part. I mean, basically, I was brought up in Gloucestershire, grew up there, grew up in Monmouthshire, and then moved into the Bristol area where I spent the rest of my life. But those places are not too far away from each other, so moving to Derbyshire was quite a, that was the biggest or furthest away I'd ever moved, so it was quite a brave move on my part. Now, bearing in mind I actually knew nobody at all in Derbyshire, you know, I really was moving into the unknown, and I had no idea how things are going to work out. But I'm a firm believer that you only get one life, so you've got to give things a go if they feel right at the time. Because at the end of the day, if things don't work out, you can always move back. But moving to Derbyshire, I think, has been one of the best decisions in life that I've ever made, and I'm very happy there. So, you know, my life improves as I get older, I believe. I'm 40 next year, so as far as I'm concerned, my 40s are going to be the best years of my life. Not to be confused with the wild and uninhabited Broad Haven on the Castle Martin Peninsula, this little town just over the hill from Little Haven has a few shops, pubs and accommodation. It provides an ideal base if you're looking for a traditional seaside holiday, but equally it is conveniently located for excursions to St David's, Haverfordwest or Milford Haven. I can't remember the last time I bought a Doctor Who magazine.
We were doing something, I think.
I don't know, don't
Was it
buy
when
much
you were in
now.
Western
I can't
last
remember.
time?
Don't know.
I think it probably was.
It's just something I bought because I was on holiday.
Yes, I think it was probably the
I
last
used to
time.
buy
you
them
were
all
in
the time at
Western.
one time. No, that's how I first met Nigel and Michael and Richard and all those people. Jenny.
Yeah.
That's through that.
They were a lot more, they weren't so shiny like that though, were they?
What, Jenny and Michael? Or are you talking about the magazines?
The magazines.
Oh, right, okay.
Not Jenny.
I wasn't sure what you meant when you said they're all shiny. Yeah. No, it's funny because I always remember that this chap I worked with when I was working in Avon. I worked for Avon County Council at the time, and for whatever reason we got the subject of Doctor Who came up, and I said I was a fan, he was a fan, and then he told me about this guy called Nigel, who had all the Doctor Who on tape. Of course, in those days, you know, nothing was readily available on video like it is now.
Oh, that's right.
And I always remember that, you know, and so he gave me his number, and I ended up ringing Nigel up, and I don't think Nigel ever knew anything about me.
Mm.
And I sort of said, oh, you know, I'm a fan of Doctor Who, I understand you've got Doctor Who on tape. And he said, oh yeah, I'm having a little sort of meeting tonight if you want to come round. I thought, oh, well, we'll do then. Of course, Nigel will always say that it was me that invited myself. It wasn't quite like that, but, you know, I think we have to disagree on that one.
Yeah.
But it was that night where I first met him and Richard. And Martin was there, and Martin, funnily enough, you know, he was never into Doctor Who, but he was the man that, he was one of Nigel's closest friends at the time.
Right.
So yeah, so I met, you know, them and Jenny and Richard, so yes. It was quite funny, really. And then you know, the Doctor Who thing was like an interim thing, I suppose, but they ended up becoming my closest friends.
Yeah.
There's, you know, I don't think anybody has been as close as they have. Newgale Sands is famous for its 2-mile stretch of gloriously golden sand. With its large surf, it is considered by many one of the best places to take the board. Bathers should take note of the flags, especially in high tide. The beach is backed by a natural ridge of pebbles, which act as a flood defence at high tide. With easy access for wheelchairs and pushchairs, plus excellent facilities, seaside activities and walks, this really is a beach with something for everyone. During the 2 years that Mum was living here in Pembrokeshire, I used to visit her as often as I could, and you can see why, can't you? I probably got to know Pembrokeshire as well as the Forest of Dean almost, because I made a point of going everywhere. I drove all over the county, got to know all the coastal resorts, and probably have walked most of the coast path by now. This is an attractive and picturesque little village with a small sheltered harbour, a variety of small shops selling crafts, clothes, etc., pubs and eating places. Solva stands in a deep valley, gouged out by water, melting from glaciers, and its position made it ideal as a base for trading ships in the 18th century. When the tide is in, the valley fills slowly with water, but when the tide is out, the boats are left high and dry, ideal in the paths for unloading cargoes. Today, apart from a few local fishermen, the harbour is used only by pleasure craft. charm of St David's lies in the fact that it is a small attractive village, now with full city status. Visitors flock to St David's as they did in the Middle Ages, when it was a place of pilgrimage. The cathedral is still the major object of attraction. The cathedral and ruins of the once magnificent Bishop's Palace are marvels of medieval architecture, and the highlight of every summer is the St David's Cathedral Festival, held in May, an annual celebration of classical music and the chance to see the most historic and revered building in Wales. That's St David's Youth Hostel behind me. It used to be one of the simple youth hostels when I stayed there, which was probably about 20 years ago. Now, simple youth hostels basically were just the most basic hostels of all. They just provided a bed and that was it. But that was one of the few simple hostels that actually gave you bed and breakfast and evening meal. And it was really nice. There's just one thing about it. Have you noticed what colour they bloody painted it? Flippin' red. Now, I've always had a thing about red paint on buildings, and they've gone and painted it flipping bloody red. You can live in a caravan?
No, I don't think so.
Why do you say that?
No soundproofing for a start, is there?
No.
I mean, there might be in one of those.
Well, some of these sort of more luxurious looking ones.
Yeah, but and certainly not this old-fashioned stuff. It'd have to be a proper armchair. You can get a proper armchair, but
well, I mean, that's the trouble is, I mean, these are like the beds, these things. It's just
yeah.
plywood
Yeah.
underneath, so.
Yeah. And you can't move it to where you want it, you know.
Whitesands Bay, a curving mile-long expanse of flat sands, is one of the finest beaches in the country and one of Pembrokeshire's most popular swimming and surfing places. At very low tide, the remains of a forest are revealed, consisting of stumps of birch, fir, hazel and oak trees. I have to say, I know the tide's out now, but I think Whitesand would certainly be my favourite beach in Pembrokeshire. Tossers, a lot of them. Yes, I miss the bastards in Bristol. Yeah. Well, I know that, you know, I mean, Nigel said to me, why are you moving to Derbyshire, you know, what's up there, and, you know, you don't know anybody. And I said, well, that's right, but at the end of the day, it's something I had to do, and I knew I didn't want to stay in Bristol. So, although it was hard to start with to make new friends in Derbyshire, and I did miss them terribly at the beginning from Bristol, but you know, as time's gone on, things are better and I'm very happy in Derbyshire, but I do still miss my friends in Bristol. I don't know, I mean, I'm not exactly on the other side of the world to them. They're about a 3-hour drive down the motorway, so. But the trouble is Nigel doesn't drive, so I suppose it would seem a long way to him, whereas in me I can just nip in the car and, you know, as I say, in less than half a day I'm down to see him. you said you moved away from Pembrokeshire and back to Bristol because you like the city.
I do like the city, and I like to know that I hardly ever use the facilities. I mean,
what facilities are we talking about? What, cinema?
Cinema, theatre, all that sort of stuff. It's just nice to know that they're there, and when you do want to use them, you don't have to travel miles.
Was it not the cinema in Haverfordwest then?
There is one, but it's, I think at that stage it wasn't open every night. You only had one film they were showing, and that was it. And if it could be months before a film came out that you wanted to see. So I never went to the cinema when I was in Haverfordwest. But since I've been in Western, I've been quite a lot. Especially on a Tuesday, because they do a cheapy night. The Odeon do a cheapy night. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. But most of the time, I'm a home bird really anyway, so I'm quite happy. So who knows? I might get to accept the fact that.
So one day you still may come back.
Yeah, possibly.
Porthgain has a long and interesting industrial history. The mining began in earnest around 1890 and employed roughly 200 men and boys in its heyday. Slate was first quarried in the harbour in 1841 and brought over from Aberystwyth and was used principally for roofing. The quality of the slate, however, was fairly poor compared to other slates and had a relatively short life. A byproduct of the slate was brickmaking, which were then fired in the kiln next to the shed, now sadly demolished. The quarries above Porthgain produced a hard granite, which was extensively used in road making. Watching the tide flow, so blue is the colour. Walking along the beach, so gold is the sand. This land is so lost, a world of its own. It's so hard to leave here, but it's never from my mind. You only have one life, you only have one chance, you only have this time once in a lifetime. You only have one life, you only have one chance, you only have this time once in your lifetime. Don't let it pass you by. Watching the birds fly so high in this blue sky, seeing the ships go by around this fine shoreline. This land is a gold mine, a corner of paradise. It's so hard to leave here, but it's never from my mind. You only have one life. You only have one chance. You only have this time once in a lifetime. You only have one life. You only have one chance. You only have this time once in a lifetime. Don't let it pass you by. This land is so lost, a world of its own. It's so hard to leave here, but it's never from my mind. You only have one life. You only have one chance. You only have this time once in a lifetime. You only have one life. You only have one chance. You only have this time once in your lifetime. You only have one life. You only have one chance. You only have this time once in a lifetime. You only have one life. You only have one chance. You only have this time once in your lifetime. Don't let it pass you by. Strumble Head is the most remote and wildest part of the Pembrokeshire coast. You know, it's quite a shame really, because Pembrokeshire was another place, like the Forest of Dean, where had there been work in the area, I would have absolutely loved to live here. Well, basically what happened was, after trying for years and years and years of not getting anything in the Forest of Dean, I just gave up in the end, and I widened my search. I started to look for jobs in other parts of the UK, because it wasn't just the fact that I wanted to get to the Forest of Dean, but I just wanted to get out of Bristol. I hated Bristol. I wasn't prepared to go anywhere, but if I couldn't get work in the Forest of Dean, this was the next place I wanted to come to. But again, just nothing ever came up. I looked for a couple of years. I mean, whilst Mum was still living here, I looked for jobs, but nothing ever came up. So I ended up moving to Derbyshire, because, funnily enough, even though that was probably the next favourite, there was just a lot more jobs turning up there for some reason. But it's a shame. I think I could have quite happily lived here in Pembrokeshire, because it's a fantastic place, and unlike Mum, I think I wouldn't have felt lost here, because I mean the difference is I've got a car, Mum can't drive, so I would have got around really well, and I think I would have enjoyed it here. It's just the way things work out. You just don't know how things are going to work out. So anyway. Goodwick was a fishing village until mid-Victorian times, after which it began to develop as a seaside resort with numerous marine villas built overlooking the bay. In 1899, a huge harbour complex was constructed here for the Great Western Railway Company. For a brief but glorious period, the great transatlantic liners called at Goodwick, and today the harbour is a terminal for car ferry services to Ireland. The picturesque harbour of Lower Fishguard, setting for the 1971 film version of Dylan Thomas's Under Milkwood, was once home to 50 coastal trading vessels. Fishing was also important, and smoked herrings were exported to southern Europe. The harbour, on the estuary of the Gwaun River, is now used by leisure craft. Fishguard Fort was built in 1781 to protect the harbour from marauding privateers. However, it was on the wrong side of town when a French invasion force of about 1,300 landed in 1797. Fortunately, the invaders were more interested in looting and drinking than fighting, and they soon surrendered to a hastily assembled defence force. This was led by Lord Corder, who made his headquarters the Royal Oak Inn, which still stands on Fishguard Square. Reminders of the last invasion include a memorial to local heroine Cwm-yr-Eglwys Nicholas outside St Mary's Church. Fishguard Square is the lively hub of the Upper Town, which has a good selection of shops and eating places. A number of artists and craftspeople have settled in the area, and there are excellent galleries. The long-established Fishguard Summer Music Festival has an international following and is complemented by the recently launched Fishguard Folk Festival earlier in the summer. What's happened to the weather? It's got flipping shite. Apart from obviously my close friends, the only thing I do miss about Bristol is the fact that I was able to travel to the Forest of Dean and the Wye Valley, because it wasn't too far away from there. So obviously living where I do now, it's considerably further, so I can't just pop there for the day or for a weekend as easy as I could do. So I do miss not being able to go to the Forest of Dean. The Preseli Mountains afford spectacular views from their summit, and are perhaps the most magical part of Pembrokeshire. It was from these Preseli Mountains that the famous bluestones were taken to Stonehenge, an incredible feat of engineering involving transporting 8-ton stones along rivers and overland to Salisbury Plains. In 1995, a ready-cut bluestone was discovered in the river near Nolton Haven, where it had presumably tumbled off its barge on the long journey to Wiltshire 4,000 years ago.
an ideal world, Pembrokeshire would be uplifted to where the Gower is.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's much
Closer
closer.
to the city,
Yes,
well, you'd be close to Cardiff or Swansea.
Yeah.
I know you don't like Swansea yourself, but
Some parts of Swansea,
well,
okay.
well, that's Swansea, but you know,
Yeah.
that's the thing with Pembrokeshire, you're really out on a limb, aren't you?
Right, yeah, but I just love, particularly the more wild areas. I like the really wild areas of Pembrokeshire.
Well, so do I. I
Yeah.
think probably around here is probably the best part. I think the North Pembrokeshire coast, for me, is probably my favourite part. South Pembrokeshire is more touristy, where you've got Tenby and Saundersfoot. Then you've got sort of like the west coast where St Bride's Bay is, so that's like sort of, you know, Little Haven up to, you know, Broadhaven, Nolton, Newgale, Solva and Nolton Haven. I mean, it's lovely all around there. It's really nice, but I think the North Pembrokeshire coast is nice because they're the wilder bits.
Yeah.
You know, Harbour, Porthgain, Strumble Head.
Yeah.
You know, even though you still get a lot of people visiting Strumble Head, it's still supposedly the most remote part of the coast.
Yeah.
I like it up to Dinas Head as well, up to Dinas Head, and
Right. Yeah.
you know, because you can see Dinas Head from here.
Yes, you can.
You know, unmistakable that headland.
Yeah.
And then up to Newport, because I think Newport's nice.
Yeah.
This is a Bronze Age megalithic site dating from at least 4000 BC. It is said to have been originally constructed as a burial chamber, but has been stripped of earth over several thousand years. The magnificent horizontal capstone is still in place and is estimated to weigh 40 tons. The belief of the builders was that the interred soul was closer to the spirit world and also closer to the sun, whose essence was worshipped as the giver of life, warmth and abundance. You wouldn't believe it, would you? A burial mound in the middle of nowhere, and there's a guy here cutting the grass. Oh well. Here on Newport Sands, this is where the coast path goes around the estuary here, but at low tide you can actually cross. You might have to wade a little bit, but you can actually cross through there. Look at that. Porky bugger. Do you know what my own mother said to me at Christmas? She said, "God, you're a fat git." I said, "Thanks a lot, Mum." She said, "Oh, no. Sorry, I didn't mean to sound like that." She said, "You're showing your middle-age spread." I said, "Well, I feel a lot better now, thank you." I must admit though, I have been getting a bit lazy of late and I don't do quite as much walking as I used to. So, although even if I did do the same amount of walking, I don't think it would stop me putting this on. We're all getting fat in our old age, that's the depressing thing about it, isn't it? Oh well. Well, it's been a fantastic week here in Pembrokeshire, and it was very nice of Mum to invite me to stay in the caravan while she was renting it for this week. It's been a few years since I was last in Pembrokeshire, and I hadn't really forgotten how nice it was here, but when you sort of do come back and it refreshes your memory of how nice it really is, and I can see why Mum loves this area so much. She said maybe one day she will come back here to live, which will be really nice. And I know the Forest of Dean will always be my favourite place of all time in the UK. But if I had to write a list of, say, my top 5 favourite places in the UK, Pembrokeshire would certainly be very high up on that list. This land is so lost, a world of its own. It's so hard to leave here, but it's never from my mind. You only have one life, you only have one chance, you only have this time once in a lifetime. You only have one life, you only have one chance, you only have this time once in your lifetime. You only have one life, you only have one chance, you only have this time once in a lifetime. You only have one life, you only have one chance, you only have this time once in your lifetime. Don't let it pass you by.